Hey everybody, it's your boy Pee Wee back with another video. Today we're going to be reviewing the Manhwa Cheonma Guesthouse or Heavenly Demon Tavern. This is a Korean comic where our main character is in his previous life a heavenly demon. As you can see here, he even says he's the heavenly demon. He's sitting here, and as he's enjoying his meal, people come to assassinate him. Eventually, he wipes them out. However, this is a regression comic, but not in the typical sense of like our main character dies. Basically, he goes to this, he has his people, of like the heavenly demon cult or whatever, try and teleport him back to the world he came from, which would be, Korea. And so instead of going to Korea and, teleporting or transmigrating back to his world, instead he regresses into the past of his current world, and he wakes up and when in the his former body from years ago when he was living with in a family who ran their own inn. That's where we get like the guest house or like the tavern is actually like this inn that he was taken in by the parent of, well, the father, either the father or the grandfather of these siblings here. And Essentially what he decides to do, that instead of basically, going down the same path as he did in his previous life, he decided that he would protect those that he cared about, which, is this family. He thinks to himself, it's not a bad way to live, just, running the inn, being around like the family that took him in and the people that he cares about. Uh, and that's mainly what the focus of this comic is. There is still like him cultivating, and there are still like martial art fights, but the main concept of this comic is getting the inn back together because it's failing, because like the person who was in charge of it basically passed away, and these siblings had to take care of, like, basically take it upon themselves. And he helps them basically get it back together, teaches like the his older sister how to cook. She was the one who was cooking, but she wasn't a great cook, so he teaches her how to cook. The older sister, like the eldest of the siblings, wants to be a martial artist. She isn't typically talented, however, it's the relationships between these characters that really what gets me to enjoy this story. And it's very heartwarming because, like, as I said, he teaches his one older sister how to cook, and basically run the inn, in order to, bring back customers and, keep it afloat. And so they can, like, continue to operate the inn. His older sister wants to be a martial artist. So, like, he'll point out, like, in passing, like, give her, like, tips or, like, observations that he has. Like, hey, instead of doing this, you should do this, in order to help her either like understand the martial arts and like complete the martial arts and learn it. And then you have there's the other sibling, which is like the little brother. Basically he just takes care of him like a little brother. Like he watches over him. There was one time where the little guy came home with like a bruise on his face because he was like getting bullied, and he basically taught him like a little self-defense trick to like get them to leave him alone. And so what I really like most about the comic is the like familial bond and like the relationship between these siblings, because despite him not actually being a part of the family, as I said, he got taken in from the streets, by like their father or their grandfather, one of the two. And but they all consider each other to be family, and they care about one another as like a family would, which is why he is determined to protect him in this life because he wasn't able to in his previous life. Uh, I will say the art's rather simple. There isn't really anything too special about the art, but I do like it. I do like the art, the more simplistic way that it is, rather than trying to do way too much. There isn't a lot of action. As I said, there is martial arts and stuff, but there aren't too many martial art fights. There is some action, but there isn't a lot, I will say. Action is kind of like the subplot to it. Like he has to, protect the people in the inn and like his family and whatnot. So like there are times where he does have to fight and like, kill people. but that's put on the burner, and it's more so focuses on bringing the end back up, the familial bonds between the characters, and just taking care of one another. And I really do like how this comic has gone so far. uh, Trying to think, is there anything else? Oh, there is one negative I want to point out about this comic is that sometimes the chapters feel a little choppy, and what I mean by that is like in one panel there'll be like our main character talking to like the young master of a family and this old guy, and then you scroll down a panel and then all of a sudden it's just the main character, just the young master, like just those two, no old guy, in a completely different area, and they're just continuing the conversation but in like greater detail. So sometimes it's just like, wait, what? Like sometimes you get that. um I don't know why. I don't like I looked, but the panels, like on some websites there are missing panels, but I was able to find, read on the ones that didn't have any missing panels, and it still had that like choppiness feel in like a few chapters. Most of the time, though, there is like a flow to the chapter, and it does, it is enjoyable to read. But it does occasionally like feel choppy in some instances, and I don't know why. I wish it didn't. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all I want to talk about today. There is, I don't know if anybody knows, but Manhwa Clan and Kun Manga, like their main websites, are down. They do have other websites. Um, like they do have new domains. Obviously, they don't have the same amount of the comics. They still have to, move over all of the comics that they had. So if you guys want a video about that, do let me know. But yeah, that'll be it for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.